Good evening, this is Ken Murray with the news this hour. The Taoiseach has backed the Health Minister Stephen Donnelly after he failed to renew a rental property registration with the Residential Tenancies Board. It relates to a property in Sandyford, Dublin, and follows the controversy involving fellow Fianna Fáil TD Robert Troy, who quit as a junior minister last week. A spokesperson for Micheál Martin says the minister has explained his oversight and his members' interests have been declared. Irish Times political correspondent Jennifer Bray says Minister Stephen Donnelly has now corrected his error.
A spokesman for the minister said that he has this property. It's got a long-standing tenancy. He said the tenancy was registered and renewed with the RTB in 2011 and again in 2015, and that it is currently registered. He said due to an oversight, the tenancy registration was not renewed as it should have been legally in 2019. And he blamed an oversight, like I mentioned there. Now, what I'm told is that the minister or his agents registered that with the Residential Tenancies Board last Wednesday, the 25th, and that will now be backdated to 2019.
Those who have experienced homelessness, domestic violence or the care system are among the groups prioritised by a new National Access Plan for Higher Education. An additional €35 million in government funding will be funnelled into helping these groups attend and finish higher education programmes. Students from disadvantaged socio-economic backgrounds and members of the traveller community will also be prioritised. Minister Simon Harris says the plan will collect data on groups who've gone under the radar in the past.
I don't think it's right or proper that you fund new access initiatives and new supports for members of the traveller community from the Dormant Accounts Fund alone. And what we're doing today is trying to provide a certainty of funding for them for the next number of years, which will allow real programmes, wraparound supports and the likes to be developed. So for me, this plan is very much about building on the success to date, but also about digging in deeper.
And finally, on board, Planola has given the green light for the Adair bypass in County Limerick. The 35-kilometre long road, costing over €400 million, will see Foynes connected to motorway at Rathkeil and will shorten journey times to North Kerry from Dublin. Adair will host the Ryder Cup golf tournament in 2027. And that's your news. More in an hour.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. See your Premier League team this year with daily flights to Liverpool, Manchester and London.
Tonight will be dry and largely clear with some patches of mist or fog developing. Lowest temperatures of 8 to 12 degrees in light northeasterly or variable breezes. And now you're up to date. More in an hour.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Get this, Neil Matthews from Galway became our 101st winner of 2022 when he answered the call and gave Barry the all-important number. So, the cash machine has been locked and reloaded, and this is the new amount you need to know. It's €12,219.36. That's €12,219.36. Text play to 57557. That's 57557. Get your entry in by 3 p.m. tomorrow. Then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make that call. If your phone rings, answer it within 5 rings, tell him that exact amount in euro and cent, and you will win that amount in cash. So that amount to remember is €12,219.36. It's over 18s only to enter. Text cost €50 plus your standard message rate to play, and you're playing across the Go Loud network of stations. And terms and conditions are on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game? It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Yeah, welcome to Wednesday night's football show. Goals going in plenty in the Premier League in the past few moments. Aston Villa had equalised away to Arsenal despite all of their woes tonight. A Douglas Luiz corner. He is a fond of that one in the same way that Steve Staunton was back in the day. He managed to score directly from the set piece to bring Villa level at the Emirates, but just as soon as they had brought themselves parity, Villa found themselves behind. Some rank defending from them once again, allowing Gabriel Martinelli to fire home for Arsenal and make it 2-1 to Mikel Arteta's side. Elsewhere, as 12 minutes to go at the Vitality, it remains Bournemouth 0, Wolves 0. They will be made up with that. Will the hosts, Manchester City 5-0 up at home to Nottingham Forest. 3 of those goals coming from Erling Haaland. The others this evening coming from Julian Alvarez. And in between there, we also had a goal for João Cancelo. Tottenham are now 1-1 away to West Ham. They were 1-0 up at the break, courtesy of an own goal from Thilo Kerr. But Tomas Souček has scored his first goal of the season for the Hammers to bring them level. And Newcastle, 3 minutes into the second half at Anfield, are still leading Liverpool by that Alexander Isak goal to 0. We have some games in the Championship as well tonight, just to bring you up to date on a couple of those, because some of them do and kind of don't involve Irish players. Michael Obafemi started on the bench for Swansea tonight, along with their loan signing from West Ham, Armstrong Okaflex. They are still 1-0 up though, away to Stoke City. Bristol City 1-0 up at home to Huddersfield. It is still scoreless between Coventry and Preston North End. Sunderland 1-0 up at home to Rotherham and their Irish contingent. And Ben Brereton Diaz has given Blackburn Rovers a 1-0 lead away to Blackpool this evening. Mick, what have you made of the Premier League action so far as an Aston Villa fan? I imagine you're tearing that wonderful hairline to pieces.
I'm not going to talk too much about Aston Villa. They've been absolutely shite tonight, let's face it. They're giving the ball away in midfield. They don't deserve... Like, the Douglas Luiz corner trick is interesting. I'm enjoying it, I have to say. Aaron Ramsdale, I don't think Arsenal fans will be flapping away trying to get past Kamara, begging the referee and then VAR to give a foul against him, even though he was the only one doing any moving. It was really, really bad goalkeeping. Other than that, though, I'd have been impressed with Arsenal. Like, they've dominated the game. They've missed a lot of chances, which they'll be worried about. And I suppose you look at even the Martinelli goal there to put one, they bounce back immediately. Secondly, like, nice football, but you mentioned it. It's really hard to judge because if you're watching it from the Villa perspective, you realise how just passive the defence was, just standing off. Like, Matt Cash was beaten by Martinelli in the initial move. The ball went back to Xhaka or whoever it was, went to Saka on the far wing, came back over to Martinelli, and somehow Cash is still 5 yards off Martinelli. You know, like, just if no Villa player had gone anywhere near the other two Arsenal players in the meantime.
I was just going to say, the ball played across the 18-yard line without any pressure from Villa to try and win that ball back.
So again, if I'm an Arsenal fan tonight, I'm happy with what I'm seeing because they're playing football that looks like old Arsenal.
Yeah.
But again, I just have to see it against a better team, a more aggressive defence. And Villa are, like, I mean, honestly, there's a lot of people watching them tonight that will have heard me and others and other Villa fans talk about them recently in a way that might sound a little bit
defeatist.
Defeated. I was going to say kind of like over the top and, you know, just kind of like almost like a fan thinking what they're seeing is worse than it is and banging on about it. Whereas I think a lot of people are seeing them tonight properly for the first time and realising what we're talking about here.
Hands up.
No shape. Like an incredibly flappy defence, which is like incredibly low on confidence, and a midfield that is non-existent.
Very poor.
But the shape and the tactics thing are I don't know what the story is with them. That's down to the manager. Some of the other stuff, I think, like the players, there's something going on there as well that isn't just Gerrard, you know. Yeah. But anyway, Arsenal look like they're going to stay top of the league. I can't see Villa getting back into it for a second time.
He's having a chance to have a conflab with his players on the sideline there, Steven Gerrard, because there's an injury to Aaron Ramsdale, who has been clutching his right hamstring on the grounds, the goalkeeper, and having words with the physio there as well. Seems to be pretty bothered by it. And there was also a substitution. Martin Odegaard has come off in the past few moments as well, replaced by Emile Smith-Rowe, and Odegaard has already removed his left boot, so clearly an injury worry there for the Norwegian as Villa make a change. Danny Ings coming into the fray and trying to retrieve something from the game for them. Is it young Ramsey has gone off as well? No, Kamara, pardon me, has gone off for Danny Ings.
Probably two more important games though is, like, Man City were always going to beat Forest tonight, but to be 5-0 up and to have another back-to-back hat-tricks from Haaland and for him to have scored 10 goals and that coinciding with us not being that surprised that Liverpool are 1-0 down.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we are surprised, don't get me wrong, that they're losing at home to Newcastle, but the shock is gone. One, you mentioned it before the news, Newcastle have been really, really impressive.
So well organised
and against and their intensity and pressure that they bring is really, like, they play with such speed, don't they? Like, but also, like, Liverpool clearly aren't with it. And
there's something amiss.
No amount of 9-0s against Bournemouth is going to hide that at the moment. So whether they can get that back or not, like, funny enough, I do trust that team probably more than any football team I can remember in terms of their resilience and their ability to kind of stick with the plan and get it out. But maybe they've just run out of time a little bit.
I think, there's going to be a retooling of whatever the plan is needed there, because at the moment, like, I think 9-0s are all well and good, but you want to be able to follow it with a result against a team like Newcastle, who are, going to be scrapping for a European place for sure, I think, this season, but still are a long ways off where Liverpool and Man City have been, I guess, for the past few years. So you would have expected 3 points for Liverpool tonight. It's not coming to pass so far, at least. There are 6 minutes to go at the Emirates and at the Vitality. 2-1 to Arsenal at home to Aston Villa. Scoreless between Bournemouth and Wolves. City 5-0 up, as we mentioned. 4 minutes to go there at home to Forest, and they're just past the hour mark at the London Stadium. West Ham 1, Tottenham 1, the latest there, and Liverpool, as we say, trailing by that Alexander Isak goal to nil. Huge game coming up tomorrow on Off the Ball. The Republic of Ireland have a World Cup qualifier against Finland, knowing a win at a sold-out Tallaght Stadium can guarantee them at least a playoff from their group for the World Cup finals. Earlier on today, our own Aisling O'Reilly was out at Tallaght Stadium catching up with Katie McCabe, and first, the Republic of Ireland manager, Vera Pauw.
Vera, how are you feeling ahead of tomorrow night? We're here in Tallaght at the moment. It's going to be very different this time tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we're ready for it, if you're ready. I think that is the key thing, and we'll see tomorrow how good we are. We know what we need to do here. We know the pressure that they will put on us. We know their strength. They're very strong. They will put constant pressure on us, and we will see if we can do something against it.
You can often feel trainings with a team, what the buzz is like, how a team is prepared, how they're feeling, just around the girls, the atmosphere. So what is it like at the minute in the camp?
But everybody's very focused on this game, of course, and everybody wants to do well, but it is not a high tensed and nervous situation. The opposite. Everybody is confident and relaxed, and we know we've played these games now, more of them, and not as a final, but this level of games we've played, and so we know what we are going to face, and we know the difficulties. You get nervous if you don't know what you face, but we know what we will face, and we know what we stand for. So I think that is the best way to deal with these situations, and I hope that this full house will shout us through the game, especially at the difficult moments.
Oh, absolutely. I think they absolutely will. There's a watch party going on in Dublin City Centre as well for people who can't get tickets. It's a really special occasion for the fans, as well as obviously yourselves and the players. For you, where does this, I suppose, mark in your career, this type of game? I asked Katie there, is this the biggest game she's played in an Irish jersey? For you, where does it mark in your career?
Well, this is definitely at least at the level of the biggest game that I've played. Of course, we qualified for the Euros for the first time with the Netherlands, for the Olympic Games with South Africa, and that's at that level. But now my heart is burning for here, if we can have a good result tomorrow, at least a starting point for Tuesday, that will make us so proud. And I hope that we can show Ireland that we will give everything for Ireland, both players and staff, and that everybody is part of a team that just wants to do well, but also show the enthusiasm for fighting for a result, and that is something that we want to bring people with us.
And you spoke out during the week just about how the Irish Republic have really got behind you and the support that they've shown you. I spoke to Louise Quinn on Tuesday, and she just said that the strength you've shown has almost brought the team even closer. She said that anything's on the table now, that if she needs to speak to you, she knows she can absolutely speak about anything. And she said that all the girls feel like that. Mm-hmm. How has all that been, being so honest and having all that support as well?
It's been tremendous, but I'm now here for football, and I've explained that all last week. Louise Quinn's reaction was phenomenal. I've thanked her for that, but she said I meant every single word of it, and that goes to your heart and to the team, and we will be there tomorrow with each other, one big group, and we will give everything that we have to get a result.
Yeah, the atmosphere is going to be something special tomorrow evening as the Republic of Ireland go in search of that elusive World Cup playoff place. We have had another goal at the Etihad. Manchester City now leading by 6-0 at home to Nottingham Forest. A very difficult outing for the newly promoted side, and it is Julian Alvarez who has doubled his tally for the evening, made it 6-0 to City. There is merely seconds remaining in normal time. There, Arsenal 2-1 up at home to Aston Villa. Gabriel Jesus has just come off. Eddie Nketiah has come on for them. Bournemouth and Wolves still goalless into the final 2 minutes at the Vitality. Liverpool is still behind at home to Newcastle as they approach the hour mark, and it's 1-1 between West Ham and Tottenham. Aisling also got the chance to catch up with our Republic of Ireland captain Katie McCabe today ahead of tomorrow's game at Tallaght Stadium.
Katie McCabe, we're here in Tallaght Stadium. It's all going to be happening tomorrow night. The place is going to be rocking. It's absolutely going to be full because it's sold out. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, no, obviously delighted with the sellout. I can't wait to obviously come here tomorrow, see the atmosphere, see the atmosphere for the game. Obviously, it's so important for us to have our fans here cheering us on, especially with such a big game. But no, I'm looking forward to it.
And for you, is it a special occasion to be leading them out? I know friends and family are going to be here. It's never been sold out before. You know, it's an iconic moment, really.
For me, every time leading the team out is a special occasion. It's such a massive honour to do that. Of course, it'll be that extra bit special with a sold out crowd, friends and family, and obviously what's at stake. So it's always special for me.
And how has it been this week? The girls are all back in camp since Sunday. I know a lot of them were playing at the weekend as well, so haven't had a lot of time together, but I suppose you've worked on things previously.
Yeah, look, obviously it's a quick turnaround from Sunday to Thursday, as it will be for Finland as well, but we've been quite concentrated coming in. We've done a lot of video work too. We've had 2 sessions. Obviously the final session will be here tonight, but fully focused, and we'll be 100% prepared for tomorrow.
You faced Finland before. It was 2-1 that night away in Helsinki. It was a brilliant result to go away with. I suppose you didn't play particularly well that night. I spoke to a few of the girls the other day, and they said, we looked at that game coming away saying we could play better than that. So I suppose the challenge that Finland possess.
Yeah, of course. Look, obviously the win away gave us that confidence, but we know Finland, they're coming off the back of a Euro tournament. They're going to have a lot of togetherness, obviously, within their team. We know, obviously, they've changed managers, but we'll see how they kind of set up tomorrow night, but we'll be fully focused and ready to do the job tomorrow.
And we just heard the news about Niamh Fahey that she's not going to feature through to an injury. That's tough for her on such a big night to not be here. How is she doing?
Look, Niamh's been a massive player for us over the last few years, and within this campaign too. She'll use her experience to rally the girls tomorrow night, and hopefully she'll be back fully fit for Tuesday's game against Slovakia.
And just on the promotion of the game, it's obviously, we talked about it being sold out. There's going to be a watch party happening in the city centre.
That's in Camden.
It's happening in Camden. You're on buses, you're on billboards. I seen you putting up an Instagram saying you're on the 77A.
I was on the 77A, yeah. Do you know what? It's amazing. The work our sponsors Sky and Cadbury's have done to get this game in people's faces and get that visibility out there, and obviously with the sellout crowd tomorrow, it's going to be obviously fantastic, and we're hoping whoever has a ticket comes and watches us, or if you can't get to the game, watch it on TV, watch it at Camden, wherever it is, but just be cheering us on.
Is this the biggest game for you you've ever played in an Irish jersey?
I think they're all as big as each other, in my opinion. Each one means the world, and for me it's going to be the same tomorrow night.
Yeah, the Republic of Ireland skipper Katie McCabe there talking to our own Aisling O'Reilly at Tallaght Stadium ahead of tomorrow's crucial World Cup qualifier with Finland, which you can hear live here on Off the Ball and Football, and the football show even here is brought to you by Sky, proud partner of our women's national football team. Don't miss Ireland to take on Finland tomorrow night. During the course of that conversation, Mick McCarthy turns to me, to my left, as if he'd just learnt that his child had been arrested for some minor infraction at Electric Picnic as he was watching on his beloved Aston Villa. Shame him once again.
Look, this is... Sorry, I don't want to bang on about this.
Bang on about it, Mick.
This is one of those results that's going to go... Like, Jared's going to talk about this, is not many people are going to come to the Emirates this year and, stay within a goal, and we equalised and it could have went... It's like, it's not... It's a scoreline that's going to hide a performance that's pathetic. Like, let's face it, like the first 50 minutes was just like absolute flapping crazy defence, and then from there Arsenal have set into protecting their lead, went and scored the minute they had to, and Phil have offered nothing. You've been watching it, Richie. It's it's been one of those games.
You're looking forward to Man City on Saturday, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Can't wait.
It could be ugly though.
City -2 and Haaland as fancy football captain.
It could be. We were watching the first half here in particular. The second half, obviously, chats with the lads from Cara O'Kane and Brendan Devaney have kind of interceded.
Yeah, and Liverpool and Newcastle's a big game.
And Liverpool and Newcastle's on, yeah. But
Liverpool have just scored, by the way.
There you go. But watching how disorganised Villa are, and you look how
again
organised Arsenal have been and Aston Villa haven't been during the course of this game, it looks like it could be a very ugly evening. 5:30 kickoff. It could be for Villa on Saturday.
Is that what it is? Saturday. I'm hoping this is the last time I have to speak about Aston Villa.
No, Mick, I want you to talk about Villa at length. You always get good engagement when we talk about Villa.
Yeah, but that's not. I'm not this one trick pony here to entertain you, Richie. Big goal for Roberto Firmino. Third in 2 games.
Third in 2 games for the Brazilian, yeah.
Half an hour left in that one.
They might well turn this around, might Liverpool. Final whistle is gone, by the way, at the Etihad. We'll hopefully bring you a full-time report on that one. Man City beating Nottingham Forest by 6-0. Haaland with a hat-trick for City tonight. They're 4 minutes deep into added time at the Vitality. Bournemouth clinging on for a 0-0 with Wolves tonight. Arsenal 2-up in the 6th minute of added time now at home to Villa, and West Ham and Spurs remain 1 apiece. We will be talking to Greg O'Keefe. I've just made the break sign on camera as well, which is very professional of me. We'll be talking to Greg O'Keefe about Everton's start of the season, or lack thereof, after a break.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Moncrief.
You reckon that plants are intelligent? Because maybe some plants are more stupid than others.
Yes,
right?
Indeed. Okay, well, I mean, just like any other creature, it's fair enough to say.
Moncrief.
Brought to you by Avant Money.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on News Talk.
Looking for a last-minute midweek getaway? At gobreaks.ie, prices start from only €95 per night, and you can save up to 25% on incredible 3, 4 and 5-star hotels, with added extras like free breakfast. Whether it's a short break before back to school or some late summer leave, find the best midweek deals and go explore, go experience with Go Breaks, as recommended by News Talk.
Go Breaks.
T's and C's at gobreaks.ie.
Ireland's biggest M&E Expo comes to RDS Simmons Court on Wednesday the 7th and Thursday the 8th of September. Showcasing new products and demos, trade talks and special offers, Electex and Plumex bring you the largest collaboration of M&E solutions all under one roof. Register to attend today at bepex.ie.
Well, I cannot frolic.
Bob Dylan.
With all the young dudes.
Rough and Rowdy Ways. Live at 3 Arena, November 7th.
I ain't no false prophet.
Tickets from 70.45 go on sale this Thursday at 9 a.m. Maybe subject to fees. Presented by Aiken Promotions.
Horse racing fans, have you ever wondered how to train a racehorse? Well, now is your chance to find out. Racehorse trainers are holding open morning events throughout August and September to give you a sneak peek behind the scenes and the opportunity to meet the stars of Irish racing. The event is free. Visitors must register to attend. For a list of participating racehorse trainers and to register, visit racehorseownership.ie/open morning.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner of our women's national football team. Outbelieve together, and we can go anywhere.
Full-time whistle's also gone at the Emirates tonight. Arsenal beating Aston Villa by 2-1. Gabriel Jesus and Gabriel Martinelli have gotten those goals for the Arsenal, and it's finished goalless now. Final whistle just blowing at the Vitality. Bournemouth 0, Wolves 0, the final score there. Manchester City beating Nottingham Forest by 6-0 tonight. Half of those scored by Erling Haaland, the others by Julian Alvarez ×2, and also by Joao Cancelo. West Ham and Tottenham still 1 apiece at the London Stadium with 14 minutes to go. They've got 10 minutes longer to play at Anfield, where it's Liverpool 1, Newcastle 1. Alexander Isak has just made his way off for Newcastle. He opened scoring for them this evening even. Has been replaced by Chris Wood. Roberto Firmino bringing Liverpool level just after the hour mark. Everton, meanwhile, continued their season without a win last night, drawing 1-1 away to Leeds. They did take the lead through Anthony Gordon, but were pegged back in the second half. To discuss Everton's start to the season, which is seemingly gaining a little bit of momentum, albeit minor, is Greg O'Keefe of The Athletic. Greg, welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
What did you make of last night, first of all? I know they've given themselves a bit of a platform at the back with the twin signings, I guess, of James Tarkowski and Conor Cody. It's just trying to motor that forward a little bit, and possibly that's why we're seeing the business that Frank Lampard is doing in and around Everton's midfield in the next 24 hours or so.
That's right. Everton have, kind of needed a bit of stability at the back for a while now. Last season, one of their biggest problems was conceding soft goals, and then when they did concede goals, a lack of leadership and character, heads would drop and results would often get really, really nasty. So he generally wants to bring in young and hungry players with resale value, but the area where he's compromised Frank Lampard is in defence. Conor Cody, 29, James Tarkowski, the same age. But you can see why. Obviously, they were also cheap, free in sense of a loan and a free transfer. But they have come in, a couple of older heads, and they've really steadied the ship. They communicate great with each other and with the younger players around them, like James Patterson back and with Mikalenko as well on the left. So that was the first time they played as a conventional two. A lot of people said Conor Cody can't play as a two. But I thought he did really well against a pretty quick and dynamic and direct lead side. So they're still winless, Everton, but there were signs last night that they go in the right direction. They just need a cutting edge up front.
Yeah, it's not like they've had a Bournemouth start to the season where there's been a couple of hammerings in there. Like, they've all been either draws or 1-goal defeats. So a lot of the mood music around Everton and around the questioning of Frank Lampard, I don't want to say he seems misplaced, but it seems the stronger end of it is probably a bit over-egged, given the fact that they haven't been blown out of the water by anybody just yet.
Well, this is it. I think people, Evertonians, are a bit confounded by why a couple of bad results and people start talking about Lampard. Maybe that's a little bit naive, given how often Everton have changed the manager recently. But I think there's also, over in England, sometimes you feel as if there's a bit of a section of the national media that are just waiting for him to fail and kind of perhaps don't believe that he's as good as his early career at Derby and in getting the Chelsea job suggested. But I think the signs have all been the opposite of that at Everton so far. He came in with an incredibly difficult task last season from February onwards and really worked wonders to keep Everton up and create a unity with the fans and the players that was a key part of that. So, he hasn't had the easiest hand since he's come in as manager, and they've finally done some business towards the back end of the window after having to sell Richarlison, and I think that he should be judged really, ideally at the end of the season, but at least give him a good few months with some of the players that him and Kevin Thowell, the director of football, have brought in themselves.
I spoke to Seamus Coleman actually here in the show a couple of weeks ago, and he really sung the praises of Lampard in terms of the job he did in unifying that squad, which beforehand had been their confidence had been drained by a succession of really underwhelming appointments, I guess, and by the managers who mistreated maybe players. But the way Seamus spoke about Frank Lampard was glowing, and not in the sense of he's my manager, I have to talk nicely about him. He was genuinely effusive in his praise about him, saying that he has done a great job in terms of how he's galvanised that squad and how he's tightened things up and given them a platform for improving this season.
That's right, and it doesn't surprise me at all to hear Seamus speaking in such terms about Lampard, because he is genuinely probably one of the most popular managers in terms of universally across the dressing room that I've seen in Everton for a long time. I've been watching and covering Everton for a good while now, and he's fostered that spirit. And even players who aren't playing week in, week out, which I think is the litmus test of how popular a manager is and the atmosphere is building. A sort of not upsetting the apple cart. So there's players like Andre Gomez and Alam, Solomon Rondon until recently, who are very much fringe men. And actually the club are willing to sell, but Lampard will extend an arm around them when he needs to. He's got a real spirit, a real spirit in that dressing room that goes from the whole squad. And I actually think that the players are working extra hard for him. For example, last night, he managed to get a shift off the ball from so many of those players who just played on Saturday as well. And I've got a Merseyside derby ahead. He didn't use a single substitution last night, which was unusual. and the players kept going right until the end. So I think, if they can just add a little bit of quality in the final third to that, and hopefully Neil Maupay and whoever they get in before the window closes, I think Everton's direction could be a lot more positive than it was or has been for the last 6 months.
You mentioned there the certain tract of the press want to see Lampard fail, and I think there's a bit of that with Gerrard at Aston Villa. Now I think the Gerrard case is probably a little bit different, but as regards Frank, why is that there, do you think, regarding his coaching career?
It's difficult to say. I mean, it's not as if he was a particularly unlikable player, is it, either, or that he was overhyped or anything like that. He was rightly one of the sort of thought of as one of the best attacking midfielders England's produced in the modern era. His career at club and international level was pretty flawless, really. So it's hard to say why. Maybe it's because there's a feeling that he's had opportunities earlier than a lot of other young managers would have, and that might be true. Maybe there is a sense that because of his playing reputation, he got the Chelsea job and that didn't work out. And I think towards the end of his time at Stamford Bridge, he might be feeling the pressure to such an extent that perhaps he alienated and began to get a little bit antagonistic with some of the London-based media. I'm saying this without being on the inside of that, so I should add I'm only speculating, but perhaps that's why he didn't probably deal with the pressure as well as he would like, and maybe made a few enemies down there. But what I can say is that it looks like he's learned from that. He's a lot more mature and savvy in the way he deals with the media this time around, I think, and maybe those experiences will make him a better manager. And I think certainly keeping Everton up last season and the very, very steep learning curve he was required to undergo on Merseyside again has already made him a better manager. You can tell that. I thought he dealt with Dele Alli extremely well. Difficult one that was sort of handed to him as a bit of a fait accompli. And you could say it was a great opportunity, but I sort of fear that if Mourinho and Pochettino, Nuno Espirito Santo, and then Conte hadn't been able to revive his career and get that player back, then it was a tall order for anyone. But Lampard dealt with that very cleverly, and in the end, Dele Alli, despite probably some players might have felt they're grieved they didn't get the chances, they left on good terms as well. So, I think you're right to maybe draw parallels with Gerrard, and I just think at the moment that Lampard has a good chance of proving many of those doubters wrong.
Lampard seems from the outside looking in to be a little bit more tactically astute than his former England teammate. Would it be right in making that comparison?
I mean, I don't watch Villa enough, to be fair, to say, I think Gerrard can look at probably the start of the window, and Villa got their business in pretty early, didn't they, or most of their business. And I know that he's keen to add more in, but that was an advantage for them. It's probably a luxury Lampard wishes he had. And I wouldn't, again, I would have said there have been times when Lampard, you can see his learning curve, when maybe some of his substitutions, you might think, well, I'm not really sure why you've changed it when you have there. But I think he's made more good decisions from the bench and with selection than bad. And he's had to go with a back five because he's felt he hasn't had the quality in midfield. And certainly he's had to come up with creative solutions up front because he's had no strikers whatsoever. So, perhaps, you're right, maybe in adversity, maybe he has shown that he's got a bit of an edge so far on Gerrard in the tactical sense, yeah.
In terms of the arrivals, like you alluded to there, Tarkowski was a free, Conor Cody's come in on loan, Idrissa Gueye might come in for, pretty nominal fee from PSG. It's really obvious that they're having to be cute about their spending this summer. Now, is that, I'm wondering, as a result of Bramley-Moore Dock being built down the road, or is it as a result of Ali Sharusmanov having to withdraw from the club, or is it a combination of factors? Because it does seem like they're trying to be, or is it even like the money that they've spent in the past, big money on very little? Where does the kind of argument land as regards their spending there?
I think you've probably just done quite an accurate summary of why they've had to be so careful in this window. To be honest, you mentioned the three main parts of it. You've obviously got the fact that Alisher Usmanov had to withdraw his sponsorship of the training ground, potentially naming rights for the stadium because of the invasion of Ukraine and his the allegations of his affiliations to the Kremlin, so he was sanctioned. That money's gone, and that was a lot of money. Then you had, as you say, the pasta excess under Mashiri, which has been pretty awful, really. A lot of money wasted, £500 million arguably wasted on players, and a lot of those players end up being expensive mistakes or players that just haven't delivered. And then, of course, you're right to say that they are building the stadium, which is something Mashiri's actually got right so far. Really huge step forward. The only Everton owner to actually get a new ground, identify the site, secure the site, and then pretty fair on the way to building the stadium. But all those things obviously come at a cost. And the only thing you didn't mention there was the Everton's position, because of that waste, the money they've wasted, their position in relation to the Premier League's financial fair play, which has been pretty perilous, really. They were facing the prospect of, fines and maybe even point sanctions if they didn't sort it out. And that's why Richarlison had to be sold before the end of June. So that financial year that ended then, Everton could show in their figures for, obviously, for the next set of accounts, that they've balanced the books a bit more. So, there's so many considerations they've had to take into account, and probably reduced Frank Lampard's capability to spend as much as he would have wanted, because they were dire last season, let's be honest, and they needed additions in almost every part of the pitch. And hopefully they'll have done that by the end of the window. It's just they've had to cut their cloth accordingly.
The talk around Mashiri and his potential sale of the club, what's the Evertonians' view on him at the moment? Are they willing to let this play out for another 12 months, or is there still that pressure to maybe move the club on?
I think there's a recognition they haven't really got much choice. Farhad Mashiri's the comfortably majority owner, and there was all that speculation, wasn't there, at the start of the summer, of a takeover from some Americans, a consortium of an American family called the Kaminskis from Minneapolis. And they, the noises where they wanted to come in and buy the club for cash from Mashiri, and set about transforming it into the latest kind of Todd Bowley, Clear Lake style, multi-billion pound American franchise, and go for it, and go again and invest in millions on players. And that didn't happen. Whether it'll happen down the line, we don't know. But I think the fans are having to just accept that Mashiri's made a lot of mistakes, and one of the legacies of that is this prudence they've had to display in this window, and losing Richarlison, which is hard to take. But equally, I think they're positive about Lampard. They're at the stage where they're thinking, well, let's see where this goes. A few canny additions, and Everton might see some tangible progress this season. I think that'll buy Mashiri a lot of time. But ultimately, it's up to him. It's on his terms whether if he decides to sell or not. And I don't think he's certainly at the stage where you'll have sort of protests as at United or as at Newcastle before Mike Ashley sold. I think that's some time off. There's a lot of disquiet about the board in general. You've seen that last season, the 27 campaign, who were frustrated at 27 years since Everton had won a trophy. And, they had a number of demonstrations, but that was more against a mixture of Mashiri and historic complaints that they've had with the club's board and the way the club's been run. So I think Mashiri's got a bit of time, yes, before it gets as bad as people demand, fans try and demand that he goes.
I tell you what, the weekend would be a hell of a time for Lampard to get his first win of the season.
Wouldn't it just? I mean, he's got that, as I said before, that affinity with Evertonians, and he was dancing out on the main stand on the sort of in front of the director's box when they stayed up against Crystal Palace on that memorable night, and a real bond was forged there. And, he's got some good results so far, memorable Goodison results. They beat Chelsea there last season, and he's certainly he's won their loyalty and affection. You imagine, if he could, as you say, get their first win in the season and get a long overdue home win against Liverpool, that would be an incredible way for him to kickstart the season when the window's closed and everyone can concentrate on the football. And I know Liverpool come back at Anfield tonight, as we're chatting, but they're not perhaps, Evertonians will be thinking, why is he saying this now? Don't jinx it. But they're not perhaps the Liverpool of last season just yet.
They're gettable.
time for them to click into gear before Saturday.
I know, looking at them here, because we've had the match on here this evening.
Yeah,
there is a sense that they're not firing on as many cylinders as they have been for the past 4 or 5 years. Certainly, and I don't know whether it's a case whether they need to warm up into the season. I don't know if it's a case where teams have kind of figured them out to a degree. If it's a confluence of those factors, but they ain't what they were. And if Everton are humming and being as stout at the back as they have been for the past couple of games, there is a definite chance for them here. The Anthony Gordon stuff as well I want to touch on before we let you go, Greg. The talk of a move seems to have died down. I thought the strong language from Frank in the week as well was interesting, saying, if he does decide to down tools, he'll see another side of Frank Lampard. Which is, I want to see the other side of Frank Lampard, and whether he does go but actually, you're a great lad, Anthony. He does seem to need, whether there is going to be a move, and you kind of figure at some stage in his career, given the trajectory that he seems to be on from a pretty young age, that will happen. But he does need another season or two of seasoning, if you'll forgive the phraseology there. That he does need another two to mature as an individual and as a footballer before he can actually get that move.
I think so. This people have been debating whether or not he's worth the figure of 60 million that Chelsea were reported to be considering bidding for him, and they never actually have. And it's a bit of a moot point because, as I say, that didn't arrive. And everyone's got their opinion. Is he or isn't he? Should Everton have tried to push for that deal because they'll never get it back? They'll never get that price again. I'm not actually so sure. If he's 21, I think his ceiling's incredibly high. And Frank Lampard challenged him this season. You're right. He doesn't show very often that the perhaps the harder side, what goes on obviously on the training ground behind closed doors. Maybe he does when called for, but he has continually urged Anthony Gordon to say, look, he always talks him up, and he's right to remind him that he's nowhere near the finished package. He needs to add assists and he needs to add goals to become a top level prospect. And he's not a million miles off the age profile of your Mason Mount and players like that he's being compared to. Except those players have delivered goals, assists, and consistency. And that's Anthony Gordon was one of the better players in a really struggling Everton team last season. And there's clearly been a school of thought that you'd take him into a better team of better players, and he could go to another level. But I think we're starting to see that level in an average but building Everton side who got the goal down at Brentford on Saturday, and then took that goal I thought wonderfully last night at Owen Road. Had Leeds back four continually on the back foot. He's got that burst of pace, that dynamism, that confidence. He looks up, he can instantly map the pitch, and I think all these qualities set him apart. His pace again, as I mentioned, and if goals are going to come, then he will get a chance to move again, and it might be that Everton can't keep up with his progress. And I think the offer of a big fee will be there maybe next summer, but for now, I genuinely feel it's in his interest and Everton's for him to stay at Everton where he's playing week in, week out, rather than go and sign a 6-year contract and sit on the bench and maybe play in the Carabao Cup, come on for the odd 20 minutes in the league at Stamford Bridge. Look, and it might have gone the other way had he moved this summer. He might have become a regular, but I think it's probably more likely that he wouldn't have been. So, never say never. That might be something that happens again January next summer. You don't know.
I think your excitement about him when you talk about him there is quite evident, and it's probably borne out through a lot of Everton supporters that they kind of see this kid as somebody who can be a real difference maker and somebody who's homegrown, and those two factors are manna from heaven for an Everton supporter.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's still developing as well. So I think physically he's going to get stronger. Like I say, that speed he has, is and his close control, his football intelligence, his willingness to track back off the ball. He puts in an almighty shift, and also the mental side of it, the mental strength. His performance levels haven't dipped during this past month, when it's been pretty constant speculation about whether he will be going. And I think it's fair to say, from what I understand this end, his head was turned. He was interested in the idea of going to play in Chelsea, and he probably would have liked the opportunity to go and say, let's go and play or have a chance to play in the Champions League. Let's see if I can make a late burst to be in the England squad. He still might do that, by the way. It's a tall order, but I think his head, like I say, his head was turned, but he's kept the consistency there. He's kept the work rate. He's not down tools. He's not done what players are doing all over Europe, particularly in Ajax at the moment, where they're just not turning up for training and they're trying to force moves. His attitude's been brilliant, and I think that bodes well for him as a professional and going on in a blue shirt, hopefully for another season at least.
Yeah, Greg O'Keefe from The Athletic, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Been a pleasure, thanks.
Cheers, Greg. We'll have Premier League full times as they're into the final 4 minutes at Anfield. Liverpool 1, Newcastle 1 is the latest score there. We'll hear from the other grounds after these.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get all the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
Want unbeatable value from Sky? Here's the deal. Get Sky Broadband for just €29 a month, plus Sky Q for only €10 a month. Super fast, super reliable broadband. And Sky Q with your apps and recordings. That's Sky Broadband for €29 a month, plus Sky Q for €10 a month for 12 months. Now that is unbeatable value. Go to sky.ie. Availability subject to location. Offer does not include Sky TV subscription. New Sky customers only. Setup fees, minimum term and further terms apply. For more info, see sky.ie/speeds.
You could win free fuel for a year with Top Oil. That's worth $2,500 in petrol or diesel. There's a winner every month. To enter, visit topoilwin.ie.
When shopping, the food you choose with the Board B Equality mark tells a bigger story. By buying a succulent chicken or barbecued pork chops and dry cured bacon, you allow producers to do what they do best. Seasonal fruit and vegetables ensures that growers keep producing them to the highest Board B Equality standards. Fresh eggs means farmers source quality feed so you get the best eggs. Your food choices have power. Keep quality assured food producers in business. Always choose the Board B Equality mark.
Ireland's biggest M&E Expo comes to RDS Simmons Court on Wednesday the 7th and Thursday the 8th of September. Showcasing new products and demos, trade talks and special offers, Electex and Plumex bring you the largest collaboration of M&E solutions all under one roof. Register to attend today at bepex.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner of our women's national football team. Out believe together and we can go anywhere.
Liverpool really pressing for a winner at Anfield. You can see Newcastle cheeks, the ones on the pitch that is, really puffed out as they're trying to find some wins. Liverpool pinning them in to their own 18-yard box the past while. Shots from Fabinho blazing over the bar. We've also seen a Luis Diaz shot blocked by Kieran Trippier and trickling into the hands of Nick Pope, but it is still Liverpool 1, Newcastle 1. Let's bring you around the rest of the grounds where full-time whistles have gone. We will start at the Vitality, a 9-0 defeat, of course, to Liverpool on Saturday for Bournemouth. They're playing host to Wolves tonight. Let's hear how they got on through David Garrett.
Bournemouth 0, Wolves 0 after shipping 9 on Saturday. The Cherries would probably have taken a 0-0. Certainly a blank sheet was the tonic they needed, and they just about deserved it here, although they rode their luck at times. Núñez pummeled the bar in the opening exchanges with a great volley. Daniel Prudence had a header from 8 yards cleared off the line by Lloyd Kelly. Then 4 minutes from time, Raul Jimenez headed wide with the goal at his mercy. He had earlier missed another chance when clean through. Bournemouth mostly kept Wolves at arm's length and battled through midfield. Standing manager Gary O'Neill picked Neto in goal, and although you couldn't really say he made a worldie save, he didn't make a major error either, which perhaps was more important tonight. Solanke headed straight at the keeper for the home team and shot tamely at the end. Bournemouth started the second half well, but the South Coast club went into their shell, inviting Wolves' pressure near the end and almost got done in the last 15 minutes as Traore and Podence came on, as the Wolves fans called for action from Bruno Lager. Still no wins in the league for Wolves. A point apiece. Bournemouth 0, Wolves 0.
Thank you for that, David. Let's next go to the Emirates, where Arsenal were up against Aston Villa. We've talked a lot about this one. Let's get the details of tonight's game from Ryan Bromelo.
It's finished Arsenal 2, Aston Villa 1. The league leaders continue their 100% start to the season. They burst into the lead on the half-hour mark. Gabriel Jesus with a poacher's finish for his third of the campaign after Martinez spilled at close quarters. They were pegged back 16 minutes from time. Douglas Luiz converting directly from the corner spot that sailed past Aaron Ramsdale, but showing title challenging spirit. The host responded almost instantly. Gabriel Martinelli smashed home inside the box to regain the lead. It's 3 consecutive league defeats for Steven Gerrard's side, posing questions about his future. It's finished at the Emirates. Arsenal 2, Aston Villa 1.
Posing questions about his future, says Ryan Bromelo of Steven Gerrard. Let's see. Next we go to the Etihad. Manchester City had a pretty easy night at home to Nottingham Forest. Here's Peter Smith.
City 6, Forest 0. It took Erling Haaland just 38 first half minutes to claim a second consecutive hat-trick with a half volley from 6 yards, followed by an instinctive finish and a well-guided header from just beneath the bar. City eased their second half tempo, but João Cancelo's powerful 18-yard shot made it 4, followed by 2 goals from Julian Alvarez on his first City start. City 6, Forest 0.
There you go, City with a pretty easy night, and this is a case of 2 points dropped for Tottenham away to West Ham at the London Stadium tonight was Guy Swindles.
West Ham 1, Spurs 1, rip-roaring London derby. Spurs taking the lead in the first half with a Kira own goal. Spurs also had a penalty given but then removed after a lengthy VAR delay. Antonio hit the post. It was that kind of first 45. Second 45 carried on exactly the same way. West Ham did get level when Souček fired home after he was set up by Antonio. And after that, Spurs played some really nice football, but West Ham kept creating the chances. The trouble for the home side, they also kept missing them. In the end, it was probably the right result. West Ham 1, Spurs 1.
And they are playing 5 minutes of added time at Anfield, 2 of which have already elapsed. Liverpool 1, Newcastle 1. Newcastle pinned into their own half. Liverpool pressing for a winner here, but this would be certainly a case of 2 points dropped for Liverpool tonight. Bring you through the Championship as well. Bristol City have beaten Huddersfield by 2-0 tonight. Elsewhere, Coventry were beaten 1-0 by Preston. Reece has scored that goal for Preston. Just their second of the season in 7 games, and they still haven't conceded. Quite a mad season so far for the lads from Detail and their strong Irish contingent as well. It finished Stoke 1, Swansea 1 at the Bet365. Perot had given Swansea the lead early on in that one, but a Campbell equaliser in the first minute of added time brought Stoke level. Sunderland beating Rotherham by 3-0 tonight. Great start to life at the Stadium of Light for Tony Mowbray. Stewart getting a double for them and Clark with the other, and Blackburn still leading Blackpool by a Ben Brereton Diaz goal to 0. The full-time whistle is about to go in that one. But as you were saying, Mick, as we look on at that Isak replay of his goal in the first half,
player of the match,
it would be 2 massive points dropped for Liverpool coming off the back of that 9-0. You kind of figured that everything was right and rosy in the garden, but Newcastle put it up to them tonight.
I was saying that earlier. I don't know if you did. You're thinking like they needed something like that if it was going to kick them on, but I don't think it was proof that everything was going to be fine now, you know. But
everything was going to be fine, Mick, and they were going to win the league.
They were poor in the first 2 games. Like, I don't know. I think that they've been all right in the second half, I have to say. I can't see this. Like, it's not a terrible performance by Liverpool, and as you've pointed out many times in the show, Newcastle definitely look a very good side this year. They're going to cause many teams problems, having now already looked like they've taken points off Liverpool and Man City already this year.
Yeah.
So, it's not disastrous by any means, but it's slipping away already. This season, Liverpool fans are even kind of thinking to themselves, this is over, although Arsenal are sitting top of the league, of course, but I don't think anybody really expects that to stay the way it is. But
I think the hope here is that from a Liverpool perspective, certainly, and for any teams who maybe find themselves behind in the early throes of this season, is that this season is mad. And the way the games come,
you want a 2016 type, just crazy season. You mean because of the fixtures, of course?
Because of the fixtures, because of the injuries that are going to mount
and the
up.
break.
And
the break
in the
is
middle.
crazy.
Because that's a momentum killer for anybody who does go into it, on a fairly good run of form.
I just feel like we're not talking about a normal team in Manchester City at the moment. I think you're talking about a team who were probably the best team in the world.
Anyway,
and then they added, a guy who scored 10 goals in 4 games. And it's just, there is a lot of, like, if we're talking about like the United of the 2000s or whatever, you'd be kind of thinking, look, something could derail them, and it rarely did. But you were having those hopes. I think with City, it's just like, nothing's going to stop them,
I don't think so at this stage. Haaland has that freakish thing that a lot of people, I guess, strive for if you're a player, which is an aura. And you're almost playing against that aura before you actually encounter his talent on the pitch, and that's becoming very difficult for defences, as we're seeing 2 hat-tricks already.
2 hat-tricks, back-to-back hat-tricks.
Back-to-back hat-tricks. That's just bizarre.
Disappointment, after the first half today, that he didn't add to his tally, That's kind of where you're at the moment. Didn't touch on, this is a weird one to break off to, but the Preston score that you mentioned there. Preston has played, this is now 7 games they've played. They're undefeated.
Yeah.
They've won 2, drawn 5. They're yet to concede a goal.
Yeah.
and that's only their second goal of the season.
Like flicking down through the table.
They've scored 2 and conceded 0. Tonight they've had 5-0 all draws, and like it's one of those kind of remarkable runs that you're blown away by. But if you also look at it, you've got Greg Cunningham playing on the left of a three-man of a back three, and you've got Robbie Brady seemingly back to his best at left wing back. He's
5 man of the match.
5 man of the match performances so far this year. I think that goes between kind of like the official man of the match and like the club. One, you know, I think between that, but he's been given man of the match in some way, shape, or form 5 times, and we don't obviously know what. Well, the game isn't over yet tonight. Like,
it is over. Yeah, it's finished 1-0.
Right, okay, there we go.
But we don't know who's got man of the match. But Brady again was operating on the left.
And I know Troy Parrot's not scoring, and people are kind of a little bit concerned by that. But if you just look at the layout of that team, they're obviously performing quite well. Troy Parrot's not getting taken off. He's starting every game. It's like it's not the situation that it was a couple of years ago when he was at Millwall.
One of the, I think it was Gav Cooney in the 42 had a piece about, and it was behind their paywall, but it's well worth investigating, about the impact of Troy Parrott and that he's actually playing pretty well and operating really well in that system.
Yeah,
so
and
far.
You can almost just tell, even just from looking at their lineups and stuff like that that's the case, because they are making lots of changes and all. But like Parrott is a consistent player, is consistent. So like it would be great if he could add goals to his game, but people shouldn't be too hung up on that. He doesn't need to be just that guy, you know.
Head tennis in the goal, Liverpool. They're 2 minutes past the 5 that were allotted. They had a corner kick out on the right, 97 minutes plus on the clock, and Fabio Carvalho has broken Newcastle hearts. Eddie Howe doesn't know where to look in the sideline. There's a plastic bottle about to pay the price for their goal tonight, and they have been beaten.
It's not quite Alisson getting him into the Champions League, but it's late.
It ain't far off. 97 minutes plus. Argy Bargy on the sidelines. Perhaps they're going to have another look at this one. Jordan Henderson, I think it is, on the sideline telling people to calm down. Carvalho has gone ears cupped to the travelling Newcastle faithful. We're already over time.
For a kid, like, you know, that's
Jurgen Klopp saying, and what? But we are being told to wrap. There you go. What a place to leave it. Ger and Johnny are going to have a reaction to this one on tomorrow morning's OTB AM, a preview of the NFL season. Lots of build-up for Ireland-Finland as well, which is live here on this very show tomorrow night. Thanks to everybody who helped put the show together tonight. And Liverpool have won. Good night.
On radio, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and Smart Speaker. Play News Talk.
Beacon South Quarter, Ireland's premier interiors destination. For the widest choice of furniture for every room in your home from our interior stores, including Beau Concept, Caligaris, Cube Kitchens, Roche Boubois and Soul Lifestyle. Located beside exit 13 off the M50, visit us today. With our amazing range, you won't leave empty-handed. It's what's on the inside that counts.
Tesco Club Card is the power to lower prices and back-to-school bits like Capri Sun £10